Universe.
I'm confused, and I'm the one that's saying the things. Okay, welcome to episode 1, part 2. This is the movie tangent episode. Josh, say something.
Something.
Awesome. Um, I can't even actually remember why we started talking about movies. Oh, we started talking about movies because it was tied into our discussion about how things are made in a way that annoys me because I'm an idiot, and we were talking about prequels and sequels and
Yeah,
remakes
that's
and
right.
remakes. Yeah, original ideas was the whole thing, I guess. So, yeah, do you remember anything from this episode?
Oh man, no. I know we talked about Cyborg. We talked about the Alien series.
Right. Which actually,
Uh,
man, we could have just done a whole episode on that because we're both such fucking huge
Probably.
nerds on that.
Yeah, that's true.
And also we talked about the village.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did. Forgot about that.
and maybe that there's more. Oh, Masters of the Universe movie, which tied into Cyborg. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was fun. So this is an episode that doesn't have anything. We don't talk about anything serious. It's just us talking about movies. And I don't know. I know a lot of shit about movies, and I know that like you and I watch a lot of movies together. So I don't know if it'll be interesting for other people to listen to, but maybe it will be. I don't know.
You should probably just have it on as background noise.
I mean, you're probably fucking driving to work anyway. What else are you gonna do? Listen to NPR? That shit's too boring. I mean, it's good
That's true.
radio. I try to donate to it. I like the idea of it more than I actually like it, but it's sometimes hard to listen to. And we're gonna be talking about penises and action movie stars from the '80s. So
Exactly.
yeah,
We're more fun.
yeah. We don't ask you to donate any money, but
It's
we might
true.
in the future because I don't have any. This has already gone on way too long, so
Yeah.
we're just gonna go ahead and jump into episode 1, part 2, movie tangents.
Woo! Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, that was atrocious, but great.
But the thing I want to kind of jump onto now is it's off topic but on topic. But I mean we love movies and we don't see every movie. We used
No.
to. I don't anymore because it's just too much of a fucking hassle. But and I'd like to start again maybe. But it's I don't know. It sucks whenever you're like I'm back in college and I have been looking for work. Last semester didn't have time for work, so I need to get more money in order to buy movies and go to movies. And it's also just a time so I can it's
Yeah.
and
It's a commitment.
yeah it's
Yeah.
it's a big time commitment and a lot of movies seem to be coming out nowadays, like a lot. And there's a lot of movies that come out in theaters that nobody sees and nobody knows about. But I wanted to talk about prequels and remakes and prequel remakes and pre-sequels and all this other weird bullshit that is every pre-makes. Every movie nowadays is based on something, and they're very, very rarely original movies. And you can make that argument that when movies first came out, they weren't original, and you would be right. But I feel like it's been 100 years, and we should not be making movies over and over. I mean, well, we can just fucking go for it and start talking about the Thing prequel. The Thing, the John Carpenter's The Thing, is based on The Thing from Another World, which I believe itself was a remake of a movie. I think The Thing was the third version of that, the third remake. His version was a way different interpretation, and I feel like that's the kind of remake that I enjoy. Is whenever it takes the core, again, taking that core idea and then building off of that, taking that core thing and getting that right and then building off of that. And that movie is a very interesting study because it's all about isolation. It's an all male cast. It's a small cast. It's very, very, very claustrophobic. And it was
Good
done.
word choice.
Yeah. And kind of, again, tying into that kind of, simplicity and blue collarness and doing everything yourself. Visual effects team, small. Everything was done practically in the theatrical cut. Everything was done practically. Mm-hmm. There was some stop motion that was cut from the movie and it was replaced with animatronics and radio control stuff. And one scene which was cut out, I think. But that was a good example of a movie. I mean, at the time, John Carpenter was, he had already made Halloween and Assault on Precinct 13, I believe, and yeah, and Halloween 2, and another movie I can't think of, and probably another one, but whatever. But by this point, you would know who John Carpenter is, and he's got that. John Carpenter is again one of these people that has that kind of blue collar, bottom level, get shit done yourself. He scored a lot of his own movies, very simple electronica style music, which actually kind of spawned its own kind of John Carpenter style of music, where it's really simple, like Casio piano kind of, really simple arrangements. Not a lot of production, very get it done. It needs to be effective. It needs to be laser focused and and that's the way a lot of his movies are. They're very simple. They usually have small cast, usually something, it's a very simple topic. Like if you go all the way back to Halloween, it's really simple. You have a killer who has a history, but we aren't sure. I mean, we know he kills his sister when he's a kid and he's crazy. We don't know why any of that happens. It's never explained. And in the remake, if we're going to pop back around back to The Thing, because for whatever reason I've made this about Halloween now. But like in the remake of Halloween, the scariest thing to me about the first Halloween movie and its sequel, which was a pretty decent sequel, Michael Myers is not a person. Michael Myers is a force. Michael Myers has no expression. Michael Myers doesn't speak. We don't know what his thoughts are. We don't know why he does anything. We don't know his history. We don't know anything about him. He's a force. He's a white pale mask in a giant body. He is he is death embodiment. That's all he is. And he stalks these people and he kills them one by one. And at the end of the movie, he's gone. We don't know where he is. He's a mystery. We have no idea. He's just this force that comes in. He's chaos incarnate. He comes in and he ends people's lives and he disappears without rhyme or reason. Okay, and in the remake, they detail every fucking thing about his life. They show him like fucking upset with his parents in school. His mom's like fucking a guy and it's uncomfortable. There's like a weird sexual component to stuff. There's like, it's been a while since I've seen it, but like it's, I remember thinking that at least there's a weird sexual component to everything. But like clearly he was a troubled kid. They don't talk about that in the original at all. Like clearly he was a troubled kid. He was just a kid who just killed his sister. Like that's all we know. So by explaining everything and going back, and I call this Anakining, going back and explaining every fucking minute detail about the history of a character, it humanizes them too much and they're not scary anymore. And that to me, it adds so many layers of fat onto the remake of the Halloween movies that it ruined it for me. And I like Rob Zombie. I was a big fan of his music growing up, and I liked House of a Thousand Corpses. And even though The Devil's Rejects made me feel like I wanted to vomit, it was a fucking ballsy movie to make. It was very violent. It was very fucking starkly dark. And these characters are pure evil. And it was so fucked up to watch. And he was very good at making, his aim in that movie was to make the audience as uncomfortable as possible. And he really fucking did it. And I feel like with the Halloween series, it's one of those cases where the remake just adds way too much stuff and it completely betrays the point of the original one. It doesn't improve it like the remake The Thing improved on The Thing from Another World. It made the creature completely different, made him scarier. It made him, we don't know anything about the actual creature The Thing. It crashed, it's an alien creature that crash landed on Earth. It is unlike anything we've ever seen. And we don't know exactly where it came from. And that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is not to explain, where the creature came from or why it's attacking people, really. It's just that it's attacking people and how to stop it. That's kind of what the original Halloween was like too. We know that Michael Myers is killing people. We're trying to stop him. And I feel like that makes a good movie. And whenever you fucking Anakin the shit out of a character, like I don't care about Anakin Skywalker. They could have made that interesting. I mean, a lot of people have this opinion, Patton Oswalt is famous for having a big long bit about this. And this has been like 10 minutes of me talking about this because I'm very passionate about this topic. But it's just like, leave shit to the imagination of the audience. I'm taking this class now about book history, and there's a lot of these philosophers that talk about how the artist that creates the book, the author, is as important as the society in which the book is released because of our own tastes and interpretations. Because a book about anything doesn't mean anything if it doesn't have somebody to connect it to. Like, you have to come in and pick up the book and read it and connect the dots and form your own opinions and feelings and analyze this thing and absorb it. And that's what makes it a story. And it's not about a guy writing a book. It's about a guy writing a book and somebody reading it and understanding it and connecting with it. And I think that is missing from all these remakes and prequels and sequel. Okay, now you talk.
Oh God, I don't know if I can follow that.
I should not have talked that long. I don't know what the fuck.
I will say this: I did not know The Thing was like a remake of
Yeah.
a movie. I did not know
I didn't
that.
either.
I had no idea.
I couldn't believe that a remake would be that good, because I usually have a negative opinion about remakes.
Yeah, because they're usually all kind of bad.
Yeah.
Okay, let me rephrase that. I think that I don't know. I feel like there's part of that, you know, original bias where people see the original and then they
Right.
go into the sequel thinking, okay, well, this is how this should
And also,
be. And
time is passing you from emotional
right,
attachment.
yeah. I don't know. I like The Thing. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
End of thought.
So let's jump on from that to the prequel to The Thing, which is called The Thing.
The Thing.
Why?
That was
Why
kinda dumb.
did you call the prequel to a movie the same title as the movie?
Now everyone has to specify.
It's so fucking annoying. Oh my god.
I will say, and I know I've mentioned this before, I feel like that movie could have been much worse than it was, given how good the original The Thing
I
was.
agree. It could have been way worse than it was. And it had a great cast.
Yeah.
And it did look great, but there were just a couple of things about it. It seemed to almost be a prequel remake, you know what I mean? Like we were talking about this the other day. It kind of has like a sense that it's more of a spiritual successor than a prequel, and it's not even all that clear that it's a prequel until the final scene. Like, you can see that it should be a prequel, but they change. They don't mean, you know, we don't know much about what happens before the first movie.
Right.
Except for the aftermath. So it basically sets up that aftermath. But during the movie, you're kind of asking yourself, like, is this going to be a prequel, or is this just a reimagining from another perspective? And it's not 100% clear until the end of the movie.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting. But by calling the movie The Thing, it confuses the audience. So you go in thinking something else entirely is going to happen. So maybe they wanted that, but I don't know why you would want that. I don't know.
Shock and awe.
I feel like horror movies especially have this horrible thing with remakes where there's a remake of every single horror movie. And in cases like, you know, John Carpenter's reimagining of The Thing from Another World, where he does something so completely different with it, sometimes that doesn't work. And I feel like one example is I can barely even, I kind of don't even want to use this as an example because I haven't seen this movie in a really long time, but like House on Haunted Hill, the remake, it's been a long time since I've seen it, and it's probably been even longer for you because I tend to watch a lot of these shitty fucking movies over and over. But I recently, in the past couple of years, I saw the original with Vincent Price, and it's so fucking much better that I couldn't believe that the remake was what it was. It was really strange to me, and yeah, so if you don't remember it, the House on Haunted Hill remake was in 1999, and it starred Jeffrey Rush and Famke Johnson and Ali Larter, and I'm just reading off of fucking IMDb, and Chris Kattan is in it. And it's just,
Oh shit! Seriously?
yeah, it was a really, if you don't remember, I mean, it was a really fucking weird movie. Yeah. It was a really weird movie. It had a weird tone the entire way through. It basically revealed that, like, this will give away, if you've never seen the original House on Haunted Hill. Again, this is the We Suggest You Do Other Shit podcast.
Yes.
House on Haunted Hill is, I don't know if it is public license, but it is free everywhere. I think it was free on YouTube for years. It was free on Hulu at one point, and I believe it's still free on Netflix. Well, it's not free on Netflix because you pay for Netflix, right. But it's the license is pretty open. You can see it if you want to if you want to see it, you can see it like right now. You know, is what I'm trying to say. But I mean, it's a black and white movie. But the original House on Haunted Hill was an interesting movie because it was a horror movie about ghosts. At the end of the movie, it turns out that it was not about ghosts. It was about a guy who he suspected that his wife was going to try to have him killed, so he set up all these complicated things in this house to, like, it was a complicated, it's fucking really complicated and hard to explain. But like, he was trying to like draw her out or something, and she ends up dying at the end of the movie. But it turns out that everything was set up by him as kind of a game, kind of, and the ghosts aren't real, and it was all man-made. In the remake, the ghosts are real. So right away, the twist in that one is the ghosts are real this time. So it completely destroys the entire point of the first movie. It's like whenever if you remember the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo with Vincent Price, which is weird that he pops up in that because it's the exact opposite. Because like we were talking about Scooby-Doo the other day because it was going around on Reddit again, and we talked about this before anyway. We talk about Scooby-Doo a lot for people who are in the mid-20s. But the whole point of Scooby-Doo is that ghosts aren't real and people are just assholes. That's basically the point. But when the Vincent Price 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo came out with fucking Scrappy-Doo, the piece of shit, it turns out the ghosts are real suddenly. Like the whole all of Scooby-Doo is ghosts aren't real, they're just assholes. And then 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo comes out and ghosts are real, you're an asshole. And I feel like this movie, when I was watching it, was ghosts are real, you're an asshole. That was the whole movie for me. So if you watch the original House on Haunted Hill and then you look at the remake, they've tried to reimagine it and do something completely different with it, but by doing that, they've made it just another ghost movie. It doesn't stand out anymore because it doesn't turn out that the ghosts aren't real. It turns out that it's just like every other fucking movie you've seen.
Yeah.
So if the twist of the movie is the movie's actually more boring, I feel like maybe that's not effective.
Okay, I'm going to bring up something here that is totally and completely off topic.
Please do.
But I can't remember your opinion on this, and I want your opinion.
Okay.
M. Night Shyamalan, The Village.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if there's ever been another movie where I saw the preview and started looking into the movie before it came out, and I was so hyped about it. And then I went into the movie, and I feel like they just completely gave away the entire plot of the movie like halfway in. You find out that the monsters aren't real.
You find out halfway? Oh, right, because they talk amongst themselves, right?
It's been so... I literally have refused to watch it since then. That's how disappointed I was. I have not watched it since, so I can't remember exactly, but I just remember being so disappointed in that somehow. And it took a lot of it... It took a lot of things out of that movie for me. And I just want your opinion on that. Not at all related. I just want your opinion.
Is it because they let it... Because I can't remember. I thought that they didn't reveal it until later, but I remember something like that happening. It's been probably 8 years since I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
I remember the fuck it came out was when I saw it. But is it just because the monsters aren't real that bothers you?
Yeah, that's what bothered me. Well, see, it's like they gave it away so quickly.
I think they very casually give it away.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I do remember
it's just
that.
like, okay, well now you've completely changed the tone of the movie based on what I was expecting going in. And that's fine, but that's a huge gamble doing that.
That was his thing. So,
yeah. But I feel like you could have a twist, at the end. Yes, twists are his thing. Yeah, but you could have what the twist. Yes, you could have you can have a twist in the movie and not completely change the tone of the movie. Yeah. And I feel like all the previews to this movie and all the hype around this movie seem to center around this horror aspect about these monsters in this village.
Yeah, and it wasn't a scary movie at all.
It wasn't, not at all. The tone was completely different from what I was expecting. Yeah, and maybe that's on me for expecting that, but I feel like the way it was marketed, just to have that difference.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, because it was marketed as a horror movie. It was marketed as like a more or less a straight horror movie with kind of like a historical flavor. Yeah, but I thought that the tone of the movie I find odd, and it's a lot about isn't it a lot about like illness and like everybody is sad? I can't remember, like somebody's blind and the main character is blind.
Yes, she is. Yeah,
and but I thought honestly when you explain the movie, like with the monsters not being real and it turns out they're just like living in a fucking wildlife preserve, I think that is great, but I think the execution of it is bad. I think the finding out the monsters aren't real is great because I like fucking Scooby-Doo. Like, I don't fucking believe in monsters. I'm tired of every movie making me buy that monsters and ghosts are real. I can't watch possession movies anymore. I don't buy it. I never buy it. They don't ever make me buy it. It's like, if you don't believe that any of this stuff is real in real life, they don't ever do an adequate amount of setting it up in the movie because they just they imagine that you buy it somewhat in real life. Like either like the movies that are more religion based talk about like demons and stuff. They expect you to buy that on some level, which I don't buy. And then the other movies assume that you believe that ghosts are real in real life, and then they expect you to buy that, and I don't buy it. So it ruins me. It ruins. I mean, if you have a movie about a serial killer, serial killers are real. you know, I can buy that a serial killer is coming into town and it's hard to bring him down or whatever, like the Michael Myers thing. Like, who the fuck knows? He could have just been a crazy guy on fucking meth, like murdering everybody.
That's true.
Because they shoot him a bunch of times and he doesn't go down. I don't know. But
meth addicts do that.
Yeah. But I thought like something at the Village where it turns out that the monsters aren't real. I wish that more movies did that, but maybe not quite the way they did it. Because I feel like there were too many twists in that movie. Because it was like the monsters aren't real. I mean, that part was important because it was explaining why nobody ever ventured outside into the woods. That's why the monsters are in the movie. But I don't know, just there's something about that component of it where the movie is kind of marketed towards the monsters part, and it turns out that the monsters aren't real, and the whole point it's a fabricated story to keep them in this fucking wildlife nature preserve thing. Like, I feel like it would work better as a book than a movie.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it just doesn't work as a movie. I don't know. And some people really like that movie, and I don't really fault them for it. But yeah, Unbreakable too. So this is going to be another thing where I'm talking a lot because you haven't seen this, but the remake of RoboCop. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet. I saw it's on Netflix, isn't it?
It is on Netflix.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
You know me.
I do know you.
And RoboCop is like one of my favorite movies.
I do know that.
Two of my favorite movies are RoboCop and The Terminator, and they came out within 3 years of each other, and they're both about robots. So that says a lot about me.
Here we are.
And here we are. But, you know, the RoboCop is a Paul Verhoeven movie. It's the same guy who did Starship Troopers and
good movie.
Total Recall. The
Never
original
saw
one. Again, that was remade. And I didn't watch that. Yeah, there's something lost in translation in this new RoboCop remake, but it is a complete reimagining, which I do appreciate that more when it's a complete reimagining. To try to at least put an artistic spin on it. I appreciate it more if they just come up with a different movie. But I mean, they could have very easily have done that with this movie. But the original movie is about how Alex Murphy's this kind of like likable super cop guy, right? And fucking TJ Laser on TV spinning his gun, and he's got the wife and the kid, and he's a family man. And he gets placed into the Detroit Police Department, and there's like police strikes and everything, and there's lots of police going down in the city. And the whole movie has this like 1980s. It takes place in the future, but it's very it's like the most fucking 80s movie ever made. It's very much about like 1980s like greedy douchebaggy corporate culture and these fucking, you know. It's like the Wolf on the original Wolf of Wall Street, or not the Wolf of Wall Street. What the fuck is that movie? What the fuck is the Gordon Gekko movie?
I have no idea.
Son
Gordon
of a bitch.
Gekko.
Oh, fuck you. the fucking, I don't know, somebody
Great
else.
Gatsby?
No. Oh, God.
I haven't seen that either.
But whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. The sleazy 80s. Is
okay, gotcha.
It's a cynical view of society at the time and society of the future. You know, all television is trashy. The public is uneducated. There's crime everywhere. It's cynical, but also it's, you know, it's tongue in cheek, and it's ultra violent is the thing. And it's a lot about how, you know, it's the whole buy of that movie is a corporation buys. I think it more happens in the second movie. A single corporation is starting to buy actual like police departments and like city government, pieces of city government, like actual parts of the city. So it's the whole movie is kind of like a comment on like Reaganomics and like privatization and stuff. It's all about, you know, capitalism essentially, like how privatized can we get. You know, people want to privatize everything, like as far as like Republicans and stuff nowadays, people always talk about how privatization is better, and libertarians often talk about that also, which I'm not 100% on board with. But, you know, in this movie, it runs amok, of course, because of money and human error. And they basically purchase the corpse of a dead police officer and turn him into a robot, which is like fucking corporate property. He's a dead man in a fucking tin armor suit, you know, and it's all about like buying people's lives and, you know, what level of, at what point are things not for sale? You know, it's a whole comment on all this stuff. And it's also just fucking entertaining. But and the second one definitely touches on that. Michael Keaton actually plays one of the, I can't remember the character's name anymore. The old man in the original RoboCop. I can't remember his name. And then Bob Norton is played by oh my god, fucking, oh god damn it, fucking.
It's been so long.
Commissioner
since I've seen
Gordon,
it.
fucking Commissioner Gordon.
Oh,
That guy.
I don't know who
That
that
really
is.
famous actor.
Yeah, I don't know.
fucking God damn it, he was in The Fifth Element.
Bruce Willis.
No, the fucking villain.
I haven't seen The Fifth Element.
I can't believe this is happening to me while we're
Sorry.
fucking recording this. I'm gonna have to look this
Gotta
up.
look it up.
I'm gonna have to fucking
All right.
look this up.
I'll entertain you
Please
while he
do
does that.
Doing a good job. Doing a good job, dude.
Okay, I will say this. Well, oh, no, I think you found it. Maybe.
All right, I haven't found it yet.
Shit. I hate being on the spot. What do I do?
Just keep talking.
Okay. What did Garth say in Wayne's World when they were like focused on him?
I can't
Did
remember.
he just like stare at the camera and like shrink back onto the couch?
Gary Oldman.
I was actually gonna say Gary Oldman, but I
Fuck
thought
you.
that was
Why
wrong.
didn't you say Gary
I thought that was
Oldman?
wrong.
This was
I
like
think it was
5
him.
minutes of me looking up something on the fucking internet.
Sorry.
I'm gonna cut all this out.
Don't cut.
Anyway, Gary Oldman plays Bob Norton, who's the kind of he's more of he's a medical doctor in the reimagining, and in the original he's just like a suit who's trying to rise in the ranks, and it becomes way more of a comment on the Iraq War. It's all about drones. It's all about, I mean, there's definitely a lot about the corporate culture and, you know, is human life for sale and stuff like that. And basically the whole thing is them trying to repeal a law where drones can't set foot on American soil. So as a workaround, they revive Alex Murphy, who was killed in a car. He was killed in a car bomb in this movie. And he's like a cyborg, so technically he's got a human brain, and he's got lungs, he's got a human hand. He's technically not a robot. He's not technically like a man, I guess, but he's not technically a robot. So he circumvents the drone rule because he makes his own decisions. So the movie's all about that and trying to repeal this act, and it's all about like corporate lobbying and politics. And it has this amazing sequence by Samuel L. Jackson where he's basically like angry Black Bill O'Reilly screaming into the fucking television. And he, it's so fucking, but yeah, that is an example to me of a complete reimagining, and it got a lot of stuff right. I mean, it fell flat, I think, but it had a great cast. It had a pretty good story, and it worked pretty well for the most part, but it just wasn't as satisfying as the original because the original was so over the top, and it was comical. It was fun to watch. The sequel is almost like a body horror movie in some senses. Because, I mean, this gives part of the movie away, but, I mean, like, they show you them building the RoboCop in the first RoboCop. And you see that he's just like a face, and there's not much left of his body. But in this one, his body is actually, like, modular and can come apart and is in different pieces. So they reveal to him how much of him is left after the accident, how much stuff they had to pull off of him in order to make him into this powerful cyborg. There's a scene where, like, I thought it was weird because there's like this fucking robotic mirror that comes up out of the floor, and I don't know, that's some really weird cheesy shit like that movies do nowadays. But they take his body apart, and he's just like a face with an exposed brain and a pair of lungs, and he sees himself and he screams in horror, and he's like, "Kill me!" He's like begging them to kill him because he's not a man anymore. And I don't know if it was my mood or what, but at the time I was like fucking flipping out. I was like, oh my God, this movie is like my fucking nightmares. Like, you know, the first one, the tone of the first one allows a certain emotional distance, and it still conveys its message, and it's still entertaining. This one is like fucking feel awful right now. You will feel awful. And it handles everything totally differently. Like, he doesn't die in this one. He just almost dies. So there's not like a weird thing about where he's legally dead and in the first one, and then in the sequel to the original RoboCop, he has to say goodbye to his wife forever. And you never see his kid after he dies. He never sees him ever again. And this one, he actually visits his family, and they actually stay together at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert: they actually stay together at the end of the movie. Like, everything's gonna be fine. You know, just like a head and lungs and like part of a hand. And it just handles everything totally differently. And it's a lot more of a straight action movie. And there are action sequences in it. They're absolutely ridiculous. Like, there's a scene where he has to fight like 100 drone robots at the same time. They're like humanoid drone robots. And I'm thinking, like, the entire time, like, why are they having like a Detroit police cop trained to kill like 150 robots in the dark warehouse? And he really destroys all the robots too, which bothered me in the movie, but that's another thing. Like, how many fucking millions of dollars are they spending on this fucking test? But I don't know, this part's going like way too long.
No such thing.
Anyway, I'm probably gonna cut all this down.
That's fine.
But the whole point I was gonna bring up movies, you know, was to tie all that stuff in. But the real off-topic thing that I wanted to bring up the real fucking thing that I wanted to talk about at the end of this podcast.
Yes.
Neil fucking Blomkamp's, what I've been calling the real Alien 3, was just recently. I mean, it might change, which it would break my heart because this is something I've always wanted since I was a kid. But you know, it's been revealed that he's gonna make this real Alien 3, the original concept for Alien 3, and ignore the Alien 3 that came out and ignore Alien Resurrection. Even though I enjoy watching both of those movies, Resurrection is especially because it's fucking ridiculous.
I can't. To this day, I cannot get through that entire movie. I can't.
I have to separate myself emotionally in order to watch it. I have to kind of compartmentalize it. Because I love the first two movies so much and they're so special to me. And the first one is such a fucking art piece. And it's, I mean, Ridley Scott, lots of people call him an asshole, and he probably is. But
I don't care.
Yeah,
that's fine.
He's a beautiful cinematographer. And that whole movie is just so beautifully shot. And it really fits everything that's good about a movie. It's got interesting characters, very strong female lead in Sigourney Weaver. She's really wonderful in that movie. And she goes over like an emotional change in that movie, which I thought was really interesting because she's kind of shut down and quiet at first. And then she has to rise to, you know, to defeat the thing, and you know, the survival and everything in that movie is wonderful, and it's so beautifully shot. And you know, they were talking about, with, you know, the thing I was talking about with Halloween. We don't know what the, you know, at this point when the movie came out before Prometheus, we didn't know anything about the space jockeys. We got a vague sense that the aliens were a biological weapon, very vague sense, and we didn't know anything about it. And it's hidden in the ship, and we don't really see it all that clearly the entire movie. And it's fucking terrifying. At any moment, you think that thing can pop out, and it does a couple of times, and it's great. And I think it hits all the beats perfectly. And then the sequel completely redoes it. It's a lot more of a straight action movie, and it still really works because
I was actually going to mention that.
Yeah, it still really works because it's, you know, it's handled by, you know, James Cameron is a perfectionist, again, probably an asshole. And a lot of the effects are practical in that movie. A lot of the editing is done in camera, which I was fucking surprised about. And again, a great cast. Again, the movie looks great. And when the third one came around, by that point, Fox was getting nervous about the movie that was going to come out. And I mean, you can read about the history of Alien 3. It's really a fascinating topic, especially if you have the Alien Quadrilogy box set, which you have and I have. They talk about how, you know, the director changed multiple times. The movie was rewritten a bunch of times. Fox executives kept sticking their little fucking asses into that movie. And it was basically the perfect example of everything that could go wrong with the production of a movie. It really was. They were so afraid to make a bad movie that they made a fucking bad movie. I mean, there are great points to that movie. But I mean, I think in the director's cut, if you watch the original cut of the movie, I find that movie unsatisfying, especially because it was finally a movie. Because I really love this actor, Charles Dance, which a lot of people don't know who he is, but he's a pretty famous actor. If you like character actors, but he was like the red-haired, like the main guy, like the guy that Sigourney Weaver totally bangs in the movie.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. And they kill him off right away. And he was kind of the highlight. He was the highlight of the movie for me, and they kill him off right away, and I was really bummed. But that whole movie is just so bleak. Like, everyone fucking dies.
It is very bleak.
Everyone dies. Everyone's like, doesn't like, you know, it's a male prison colony, so they don't like to associate with Sigourney Weaver because she's a woman. And it's got this kind of weird religion thing where they're like monks, and the planet is like a desert, and it's depressing. And like the only thing they have is like a pet dog, which becomes, you know, fucking the host for the alien. And so even that was changed to a dog, and you know, it was originally going to be like an ox, and there's a bunch of other pre-production stuff. But the original, I'm fucking meandering here so bad because I know so much about this and I just want to talk about it forever. But the original concept for Alien 3 was, at the end of Aliens, our three survivors, Newt, Ripley, and Hicks. Survive. By the way, I fucking love Michael Biehn so much.
Michael Biehn is awesome.
But anyway, they're in the fucking cryopad thing, and then the movie ends. Or like, oh well, hopefully we'll live. You know, like, that's the best they give you in the movie is hopefully we'll live. And it worked out for Ripley in the first movie, but she woke up and like her whole life was fucking dead and everything. But whatever, it's another side tangent. But the original concept for the third movie was they would, you know, crash land fucking somewhere. I don't remember where. I think that changed a couple of times. But they would crash land fucking somewhere, band together and fight off a horde of aliens. And it was basically, you know, it was gonna be just those, not just those three characters, but those, you know, there were the three return leads. and it was all going to be just about those three characters and their relationship and how they become more tight knit and everything. Which was, to me, I mean, that only happens towards the end of Aliens, but that was the best part of Aliens to me. Like the interplay between Ripley and Hicks was really great.
Yeah,
and I love that. And it's so crazy to think that Michael Biehn was actually brought into that movie really late, and he almost wasn't Hicks. That would totally change the movie for me. But it's. I mean, Alien 3 was such a disappointment, and I think maybe you watched it for the first time with me, didn't you? When we were like 15 or 16 or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I saw the first two way before I saw the third one.
I did too.
And, you hope that the third one's going to be good and happy, and you see cool stuff happens. And what happens in the third movie, in the actual version that came out, is everybody's dead but Ripley. They all die off screen. And that to me is like the biggest betrayal. Like you fight the whole fucking second movie. They survive all this shit and then they die off screen. We don't even see it. Like they die off screen. And for all we know, like they've been dead a long time. Like Ripley wakes up and they've been dead for who fucking knows how long already. The movie starts really depressingly. Yeah. And then in the center, everyone starts to die and it gets more depressing. And then at the end, the main character dies. What the fuck were they thinking? Yeah. Even if they did that in an artistic way that was good, it's still really fucking depressing.
Yeah. It would be very hard for people to develop a positive attitude towards that.
Exactly.
When that's what happens. Yeah.
Even if it was handled like better and the Fox execs weren't poking in and changing stuff and the movie wasn't in like hell for a long time. I feel like just those things make that movie just fucking too stark depressing to enjoy. I put it on now and I usually don't finish it. I usually think to myself like, I'm going to get through it or whatever. I forget what happens every now and again. I want to watch because I love the Alien movies and I'm like, I'm going to watch this one again. And I remember like 15 minutes into it, like, I don't actually like this movie. I don't know what I'm doing.
And then the fourth one is just...
Yeah.
Can we not talk about it? There are a few movies that I just truly get angry about.
Yeah.
And that is one of them. Because you look at everything that the first and the second one built. And then you have the third one, which wasn't a total loss, but was still kind of...
It had good moments.
Yes,
it definitely did. And some actors did really good performances in it, I think for sure.
Yeah, right. And I feel like the fourth one... I can't use the argument that they completely retreated from what the Alien series is about, because you look at the first one, which is clearly survival horror, and then you jump to the second one, which was clearly, action, shoot 'em up, and it worked.
Yeah.
It was still great.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't the genre change that did it for me. It felt like there was nothing about the fourth one that was serious. It felt like it was all a joke.
It seemed very aware of itself. Like it seemed like more like a comic book movie, I think, where it's like the buys are huge. We're way in the future. Ripley's cloned, but she's also an alien and she has superpowers. And fucking Ron Perlman's like shotgunning motherfuckers, and there's a guy with like a fucking I don't know. It's the whole movie.
Winona Ryder for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's a bad actress. I'm just saying.
Well, it's just weird because it has kind of like... Have you ever watched Firefly, by the way?
I have never watched Firefly.
You should watch that. Nerd recommendations. But like...
Podcast name.
The tone of the movie is almost similar to Firefly, but Firefly is very jovial and fun, and Aliens is not... The Alien series is not like that.
Yeah.
So it's like... I don't know. I mean, like Joss Whedon has in the past said that he wanted his name taken off the movie, and the movie wasn't his fault, and he didn't actually like what came out of it and everything. And I believe the same thing happened to the third movie. I think for a while, the third movie did not actually have a director credited because everybody had pulled their name off of it. So I feel like I think both of those movies were just Fox's fault. I really do. I feel like, a lot of, especially in the 90s and in the early 2000s, it seems like, I mean, I'm not in the movie industry, but I listen to a lot of podcasts about it, and I read books about it, and I listen to a lot of interviews about it, and I'm a nerd about the subject. But it seems like there was way more corporate intervention than there should have been, and it just breeds shitty art.
Yep. Yeah. We've been babbling for 2 hours.
It seems like I'm going to cut a lot of this stuff down, but once I get rid of all of our mistakes and
What
the
mistake?
like 3 hours where I talk about absolutely nothing.
We don't make mistakes.
I don't know. I feel like we should end it on a happier thing than how much we fucking hated the original Alien 3. I mean, like, well, to go back to that, you know, the real Alien 3, directed by the guy who made District 9 and Chappie, and I'm excited for Chappie too, by the way.
I'm torn on that.
I'm excited because I want to see more movies of the robots.
That's fair. That's fair. Can we talk about District 9 for like 5 minutes?
Oh, of course.
What that was supposed to be, because you blew my mind with that last night.
I believe that's verified. I mean, there was always the fan theory whenever District 9 came out was that it was the Halo movie. And let's see. Yeah.
I made the head explosion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a whole thing. Like the license didn't. I can't remember. Like they changed it at the last minute or something. But yeah, Neil Blomkamp at the time was like 29 when he made that, or 28 when he made that movie. But
that's 2 years older than me.
Yeah, I know, it's fucked up, right?
That's depressing.
But yeah, it was originally gonna be, it was produced by Peter Jackson, and it was gonna be directed by Neil Blomkamp, and it was gonna be the movie Halo. But for some reason, the script never came out, and again, it was all about it seems like studio politics. No idea, but. But yeah, a lot of the original concepts, the sci-fi world and the technology and everything came out of that germ of an idea. And it ended up becoming a completely different kind of movie, and it tied a lot together into some of the stuff that he's done before about like Johannesburg and stuff. But it was originally going to be, I think the original idea for the movie was basically, it was going to follow the basic through line of the first Halo game, but it ended up becoming this political statement and this whole statement on racism and everything. And if you watch the movie knowing that it was originally going to be the Halo movie, it really changes a lot of stuff. I mean, it definitely explains a lot of the sci-fi action scenes. I mean, especially you rewatch that movie and like the first part of the movie is not all that action oriented. The main character freaking out about everything, but then the movie becomes this kind of big crazy sci-fi epic. But I mean, but yeah, I mean that movie has a weird tone to it because I mean we talked about this. It seems really thrown together. It's a weird perspective because it's like a found footage movie, but it's not. It starts off looking like a found footage movie, and then it just stops doing that. I don't know. It's a very strange movie. I think it actually kind of detracted from it a little bit, but I don't know. Overall, I think it's a great movie. I rewatched it recently, and I enjoyed it, even though it's good. It's really sad.
I've only seen. I think I only saw it in theaters. I don't think I've seen it since I saw it in theaters, and I remember it being like kind of depressing, and it had that weird. There was something about it that just made me think, wow, this kind of feels kind of jumbled and kind of thrown together in places. Yeah. And then you said that, and I just freaked out because I had no idea. And it makes perfect sense because I remembered that there was going to be a Halo movie. There was a lot of talk about that, and then all of a sudden you just stopped hearing about that. So it's. I don't know. That blew my mind.
There's a lot of great stories about shit like that. But like, have you ever seen the shitty Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Cyborg?
I've heard of it.
This is gonna be really obscure. I'm just gonna fucking throw it out there. I like shitty Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. He's the worst actor I've ever seen. I like watching him do the splits and say a lot of people. Again, I'm gonna recommend that you stop the podcast and go on YouTube and look at the scene from Bloodsport where the guy throws a powder pellet in his eyes. And it's a for some fucking reason, it's a slow motion sequence that's mostly like, it's like from a upper mid torso, like centered on his face, of him screaming weirdly with his weird accent and like miming being blind, making the weirdest sounds I've ever heard. It's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. But anyway, in the 80s, the cartoon, The Masters of the Universe, He-Man. And yeah, that was the biggest thing ever. And I grew up like right after that. But, the toys were still around whenever we were young. But there was a Masters of the Universe live action movie, and it had a pretty decent cast in it. The main character was Dolph Lundgren, who played He-Man. He did it really weird. And the main villain, Skeletor, was played by... Oh, fuck, I might have to look this up again. He was played by a character actor, and he kind of, I don't know, people say that it's like, it's really over the top. But I think that he kind of did I don't know, you know how like sometimes when people overact and it's kind of bad good? I feel like it was that for me. Yeah, Skeletor in the movie was played by Frank Langella, or Langella. I don't know the fuck you pronounce his name, but he does. Yeah, it's an over the top performance, and I'm gonna show you this picture of him. You should Google this picture on the internet.
Holy crap!
Yeah, the makeup is really interesting. It's kind of an interesting interpretation because Skeletor is just a fucking skull.
Yeah.
But this is like, it almost looks like he has his face burned off, kind of. But he does it. I don't know. I thought he did an interesting performance. He takes it like really fucking seriously, and it's such a ridiculous over the top movie. But it was basically like a Star Wars knockoff in the end, because it was a lot of like laser blasty, shooty guns, and like guys, and like it's kind of almost stormtrooper outfits with like most of the grunts, and that's not it's a vague representation of what the cartoon was. But anyway, that's not even all that important. It's just like that's a movie, and if you want to watch a shitty movie, you should totally watch that shitty movie. It's fucking weird. But they were during production of that movie, they were so certain it was going to be a big hit. And Masters of the Universe, the toy line, was selling so well, and the cartoon was doing so well, and it was so fucking popular. During production of that movie, they greenlit a sequel before it was out. Well, that movie came out, and nobody gave a fuck about that movie. It died. Like, most people have never heard of it. Most people don't know that there's a live-action Masters of the Universe movie. And for good reason. It's fucking weird. Even though, come to think of it, there's like a weird Predator knockoff character in it too, but I don't know.
What?
Yeah, and there's like a key of time thing where it's like a thing where you can go to different dimensions, and it's like a giant fucking spinny accordion that shoots LED lights out of it. It's fucking weird. But anyway, they were so sure that this movie was going to be a hit that they greenlit a sequel. They started pre-production on it. The movie flopped. That movie lost all of its funding. They had all these sets built. They had all these costumes made. They didn't know what the fuck to do about it. So they hired somebody to write this movie, I think in a weekend, called Cyborg. And it's basically about how it's in the future, in the distant future, the year 2000. And I don't know if that's actually right. And basically there's like I can't even remember. It was like a plague or something. I can't remember. And there's like this cyborg lady, and she has the key to human survival or something. And there's like, it's basically fucking Mad Max. It's like, it's basically Mad Max. And there's like this crazy guy who's like following Jean-Claude Van Damme around. Jean-Claude Van Damme's trying to escort the cyborg lady over to wherever the fuck she needs to go in order to give them this information that's in her computer brain. And it's just like, all Van Damme movies are awful. And I don't know, it's so weird because he's always in all these same movies because he's just an actor. But they take this cobbled together script and this cobbled together sets, and they just make this awful movie out of it. And it's one of the most interesting studies of, if you're really into movies, it's really amazing to watch movies that are really fucking bad for really interesting reasons. Like, it's fascinating that they just came up, like, the only reason this movie exists is to try to make the money back from all the sets and all the pre-production that they spent on Masters of the Universe 2, which I think they probably did. But it's an insane movie that makes no sense. And there's lots of slow motion, and all of his movies have weird slow motion, and him doing the splits, and him fighting people for no reason. And it's all of his movies exist in a time where guns don't exist, I guess. I don't fucking understand. But there's always like there's always at least one weird scene where he's remembering fucking someone, and it's always awkward. That's one thing that like movies from the 80s always had, were like really fucking awkward sex scenes. I'm glad that we don't have those anymore. Like, okay, I know they're gonna fuck. We don't need to see them pretend to fuck in an incredibly awkward way. But yeah, anyway, the core point of that was it's interesting to have, whenever somebody goes to make a movie, what happens whenever the circumstances change. With Alien, the circumstances changed. And instead of making this super fun movie that everybody probably would have fucking loved, they came up with this like uber fucking stark depressing movie where everybody dies and no one's happy. And then they follow that up with this ridiculous fucking movie that makes no sense, and they had to try to rewrite all the crap that happened in the third one. And then they are finally going to retcon all that stuff and fuck all that shit up, thankfully. And
I'll say it.
Yeah. Yeah, and District 9 and fucking Cyborg, and there was a Cyborg 2, which I think had like Jack Palance in it for some reason.
I don't know who that is.
Fuck you.
I know.
Do you remember City Slickers?
No.
Do you remember Batman?
Vaguely.
Do you remember the guy that the Joker works for in Batman, who he kills and takes his girlfriend?
No.
Okay.
That guy? I can look it up. Now I know who to look up.
Okay.
The guy that the Joker works for and kills. Google will know.
Can you tell that I've watched a lot of movies?
It doesn't show at all.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know how to end this podcast because I feel like I just rambled for like an hour.
Maybe we shouldn't end it. Maybe we should just keep going.
Do you think?
No.
You like record like 3 hours and edit it down to like 48
I need to
minutes?
go eat or I'm gonna die. I'm gonna eat the microphone. Okay, I'll go ahead and close it out because I want to mention this movie that I watched recently that I bought on a whim.
Okay.
And it was amazing. It's called Under the Skin by who is it? A film by Jonathan Glazer. Is that it?
Glazer.
I believe. It's got Scarlett Johansson in it, and it was amazing. I'm not even really going to get into the plot too much because I want you guys to just check it out on your own. I absolutely loved it. It lived up to every expectation I had for it. Kind of depressing and dark at times, even a little bit slow in places, but at the end I really felt like it was brought together well. It was shot amazingly. I can remember very few movies where we got to the end and I felt like I got the movie, but it was never at any point blatant what the movie was about. It wasn't heavy-handed at all. Just very, very well done. So definitely check that out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't been watching pretty much any movies lately. So, like I said, RoboCop.
It doesn't show.
RoboCop was RoboCop was the only movie that I've seen in like a while. I've been watching a lot of like old Saturday Night Live.
I should let you steal this movie. I have it.
Maybe.
I know you should take it home.
But yeah. Oh shit! I just thought of the perfect movie to talk about remakes and prequels and
Which
sequels.
one is it?
Fucking Godzilla. That would have been the perfect one. I've seen every Godzilla movie. I didn't even think about it. Oh, we're gonna have to already edit the fuck out of this podcast. So we can just talk about it some other time.
Okay.
We could probably make just a whole separate podcast just talking about movies and remakes. Probably just cut that whole second part off and just fucking make a different podcast out of it. But
so that's BS that we wanted to talk about.
yeah, I feel good about the me talking over you for like 2 hours.
I will say that never at any point have I sat back more than this and been like, wow, I know jack shit about what we're talking about compared to this guy. Because I had very little, like, I feel like the amount of talking is very representative of the amount of knowledge going on here. Like, seriously. I don't know.
Sometimes I feel really boring and like I don't know anything.
Now should not be one of those times.
Well, now I know that I'm really boring and I know a lot of stuff that isn't important.
I will never play Trivial Pursuit against you. Ever. For any amount of money.
Yeah, you'd lose if they talked about obscure Jean-Claude Van Damme movies from the 80s.
Oh, God. All right, guys. I think we're cutting this out.
We're going to cut it off.
We're going to cut it. Thanks for listening. We'll do this again at some point. I have no idea what we're going to talk about in episode 2, but we'll find something to ramble about.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We figured this out, and it became 2 hours long.
It did.
We had like 15,
we weren't even trying.
We had 5 minutes of stuff written down, maybe.
It's like half a page, single spaced.
Yeah,
it's
about half a page.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, we'll see you some other time.
Bon voyage.
Yeah, so how did you feel about our conversation that you don't remember very well?
Our conversation was awesome.
Okay.
I really should go back and actually listen to that because I still haven't gone back and listened to it yet. I should do that.
Yeah, you probably should.
I should.
I went back. I mean, I produced the show, so I went back and listened to it to get rid of a lot of weird things that I do, like pauses that are like way too long, and like I have a bad habit of like sniffing. I'd never noticed that I do this, but after I started doing audio recording a lot, I noticed that I sniff a lot, like in between sentences, and it bothers the shit out of me.
I never would have noticed that.
Side note, I'd never noticed my whole life that I did it, but like I weirdly, it's like just for the internet to know, I weirdly sniff sometimes in between sentences, and it irritates me personally. So I don't know why everybody needs to know that, but I think they fucking do, and I hope they appreciate it.
I do. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is the first episode, part 1 and 2 of our podcast. So I don't know when we're going to record our next one. Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Work has been insane lately, so.
Yeah, and since spring break is over, I am back at school 2 days a week, but 12-hour days. So
That's dumb.
Yeah. And I'm also gonna help Dad in the shop a little bit. So, I don't know. I think for our next podcast, one thing I do want to talk about is this. I don't know if you've caught up on this in the news or not, but there's that whole thing with the 47 Republicans that sent a letter to Iran.
I do not think I've heard about that.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of research on it, and the part of the podcast that's actually researched, which is the first part. But before I get tired, I'm just gonna.
Maybe I can do some research this time. Maybe
that
rather
would be
than
cool.
just talking out of my ass.
I'm going to read it's called the Iran, people call it the Iran letter, but basically Republicans fuck, I can't remember the guy's name. I thought it was, I'm gonna fuck it up. I'm gonna say Ted Snow. That's not right. Ted fuck, not Ted Cruz. You know what?
Tom Cruise?
No, just Google Iran letter, Republican Iran letter, and you'll find it. So yeah, basically it talks about we're trying to get some kind of treaty nuclear thing with Iran, and they basically wrote a letter it's like an open letter that it's fucking ridiculous nowadays. It was an open letter written to Iran, tweeted at the official state media Twitter or some shit. Like, this is the world we live in now.
What?
Yeah. But it was signed on by 47 Republicans, and I don't know. Some people are saying it's treasonous, and I don't think it is technically treasonous, but it is a little weird to write a letter. I mean, it basically goes against our official policy with Iran, and they're talking about, like, any treaty they sign, they're just going to overturn whenever President Obama is not president anymore. So I don't want to get into it. We'll get into it next time, because I haven't read the whole letter yet, and I kind of want to read it and think about it and do some research and find out everybody who signed it and everything, and actually do some better research, because I'm just going off of shit I've heard on the news, which we talked about in this past podcast is not super reliable.
Yes, this is true.
Is there anything that you'd like to bring up that you'd want to talk about next time?
Not that I can think of offhand.
Okay.
I'll think of something.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just do that. We'll get together and think about this more.
Yeah.
Episode 1, part 2. We'll get together next time and think about this more. Gear up for Can You Hear Me Drinking Beer?
Every now and then.
The rare beer drink by me. That may be the 8th beer I've had in my life.
What kind of beer is it?
It's a Guinness.
Interesting.
I just it's even more than the taste. It's just the body is so good. I don't know why the fuck I'm still talking.
We're at 5 minutes. We're good.
Yeah, welcome to the Beer Cast with a person that doesn't normally drink alcohol.
And the person that never drinks alcohol.
That'd be a great podcast. We should just have 24-hour Beer Cast, and that would be our great. It'd feel like The Onion. Like, this is our version of making fun of the news. Maybe that's a stupid idea. Maybe that's definitely a stupid idea. But yeah, okay, yeah. So within the next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll get together and we'll record episode 2, and we'll talk about a bunch of different topics like we always do. And like I said in the intro of the first episode, we check out news articles, and then we kind of just tangent naturally off into a different conversation. So we'll just go ahead and do that like we did last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
It does.
So, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and close this out. This is way longer than I was hoping to be because I fucking ramble. But yeah, so I hope everybody who listened to it enjoyed these past episodes. And we're not going to see you next time because we've never seen you. But you'll
hear us next
time.
Hear us
next time if you choose to do so. It's so awkward. Yeah, so I don't know. Bye.
Bye.
I think we're fun.